Bob Cummings,
Yes, sir.
resident, moved here 17 years ago from Southern California. Moved here because of the golf course. Love the city, love the small town, it's what I was raised in many years ago. I think it's really important that we all pull together. I think it's bad timing to increase taxes now in our society, the way things are with food. I had a question, however. I was at one of the other forums and I learned that the 2% was for food. And I didn't realize that. And I want to know how you monitor that 2% when you collect it. Is there a system that you have with restaurants where they come in and just give you money, or?
Yes, so good question. How is that monitored? Of course, none of these restaurants is just operating on somebody behind a register collecting money. They've got accountants, and those accountants are filing tax returns. And so there is a trail that can be audited behind that. We have had on a couple of occasions to have to reach out to restaurants because we know what they should be reporting. I mean, we can kind of keep track on traffic and previous reporting. We kind of know what the numbers of those restaurants should be. Sometimes they have an up quarter, sometimes it's a down quarter, and we can at any time request an in-depth audit.
Okay.
So we've only on a couple of occasions had to sit down with the restaurant and say, we believe what you've given us is not accurate.
Learning from the 2% for food only.
It's gross receipts from that restaurant.
We've done 4 different restaurants, okay? And each of those restaurants are charging 2% for alcohol. Okay, so it's not being monitored very well.
Well, it's
Wait a minute, 4 of those restaurants, one of the restaurants does, we talked to the manager. He was totally unaware that you were not supposed to be taxing alcohol, which is communication.
That's 2% on gross on the receipts.
They're charging 2% on alcohol also.
On top of
food.
Well, but they would. They would, sir.
Why would they charge? I think it's just food. Alcohol.
Authorize the imposition of a 2% special tax on the gross retail sales of restaurants doing business within the city of Mount Sterling, Kentucky for the funding of Recreation and Tourism Commission. So it's the gross receipts from, if you are a restaurant, it's gross receipts. If you're a bar, you wouldn't pay that up. You wouldn't pay anything because you don't serve. A restaurant is defined as a place that would serve a prepaid meal or food. Correct.
We're talking alcohol.
But it's a restaurant. You're getting it in a restaurant.
So they can tax it 2% in a restaurant?
Yes. Let me read that again. Authorize the imposition of a 2% special tax on the gross retail sales of restaurants doing business within the city of Mount Sterling for the funding of Parks and Rec. What there is not, sir, is we don't have an alcohol tax in this community. So some communities, most communities that serve alcohol have a additional alcohol tax. We never implemented an alcohol tax. So we've never had one.
So if you go to a restaurant and you eat and you drink, they can tax 2% on both.
It's basically collective, yes.
See, last one of them, you said you couldn't, and we should talk to the owners because it shouldn't be taxed on alcohol.
Okay, you shouldn't be paying an alcohol tax.
Well, that is an alcohol tax if you're taxed on it.
No, it's a separate, the alcohol tax is separate. That if you are paying just a tax on a drink, that's a whole separate tax. That's called an alcohol tax. We don't have that here in this community.
Yeah, we do. Because we're taxed on alcohol.
We do not. I can tell you the city of Mount Sterling does not impose an alcohol tax. If you go to Bonded Bar, they don't impose a tax on their alcohol because they don't serve food. Well, they don't have a tax on the alcohol, but they don't serve food, so they don't report a restaurant
So
tax.
if you go to a restaurant that serves food and alcohol, they can charge both 2%.
It's 2%. It'd basically be 2% on the bill.
I can correct him because I actually did that. I went to Applebee's and I got a drink at the bar and they charged me 6%. And I said, you know what? Add food, please. And so they added food and I put that receipt away. And then they added food and they charged 8% on the alcohol and the food. So all the restaurants are doing that. They're charging 8% on alcohol when you combine it with food.
Correct, and they should.
But he's saying, which is true, you said at a meeting it's not,
Yes.
should not being taxed 2% alcohol.
Previous meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
You said it wasn't
Talking about
taxed.
state
Yes.
alcohol.
That's-
Yeah, but then I must have I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood what was being asked. We don't have an alcohol tax.
Maybe on alcohol at the alcohol store.
Through package
It's-
sales or like Bonded Bar. They're not a restaurant, so they don't pay an
Well, why
alcohol.
should
There's
they-
no
I guess
tax.
our point is why should they not pay it, but Applebee's is either Applebee's is charging the customer wrong and pocketing that money, or Bonded is not charging it? Because
No.
how could you have it one way for one and one for not?
There's another, the Cattleman's restaurant, they're charging over 8% for food and for
Okay.
alcohol. I saw
Well,
a receipt.
One restaurant,
Over
Well,
8%.
one restaurant says they realize they can't charge alcohol at the restaurant, so they don't. One out of the 5.
Okay, so
The other
let me go back, and I'm sorry if because we're talking about a tax, we don't have an alcohol tax. And I'm sorry if I've misunderstood a question. Most communities that allow alcohol sales also have a tax for that alcohol. We do not, okay?
Okay,
So just want to make that very clear. We've never done that
right.
in this community.
So
So-
how are you legally able to charge the 2% when it's added with food?
Exactly.
Because we go back to authorize the imposition of 2% tax on gross retail sales of restaurants doing business in the city of Mount Sterling. It's the 2% for the
Including
meal.
alcohol?
It's the 2% for the meal. Think about it that way.
It's a meal price.
If you bought a stuffed animal on the way out, then they charge you that for the meal, but the stuffed animal wouldn't have
But
a
the alcohol should be
2%.
separate. The alcohol is
If-
separate. Alcohol's not a meal. I mean, I guess some people could argue it's a meal, but it's not a meal.
It's a drink.
It's a drink, I mean, it's a beverage. I'd like to see that at least revised, you know, because now what we're talking about, we just opened a can of worms that now puts people like Bonded Bar at an advantage over Applebee's Bar.
No, because Bonded's not serving a food. They don't serve food there.
But if you're able to buy a Bud Light or an alcoholic drink at this bar, but you cross the street and go to Ramiro's, and you have to pay 2% to Ramiro's, then now you've just put Ramiro's at a disadvantage to Bonded.
You could look at it that way, and I don't know the legality. We'd have to define Bonded Bar as a restaurant. That's a legal issue you're bringing forward, Shannon. You'd want to include now Bonded
No,
Bar
we
and
wanna include
require them
alcohol,
to do
exclude
that.
Alcohol, if you're gonna tell the public that we don't have a tax on alcohol, then we need to codify that in our.
But we don't have a tax on alcohol.
Okay, then when I go to Applebee's and they try to charge me 8% of my meal, I'm gonna have a problem with Applebee's manager next time I go, if that's the way
We're
we're
charging it. We're
Because they're charging.
charging.
And Cattleman's is charging 8.125%, so, you know, somebody needs to get a hold of this. I don't feel like it's my position to go be meeting with the restaurant.
Well, but because you're passing information that's not correct, Shannon.
It is correct, it's fact.
I am reading this ordinance. This authorized imposition 2% special tax on gross retail sales of restaurants.
So
It's
retail
the gross
sales would be
retail
animal, for
sale.
example.
And a restaurant is defined as a business that would serve prepaid food or prepaid meals, right?
I pay the same tax I don't drink alcohol. I pay the same tax on a Coke that you pay on alcohol.
Okay.
That's correct.
So-
So
So it's the drink, it's the gross.
It's
it's the gross of what you bought. When you're saying alcohol tax, we don't have an alcohol tax.
But we do, if we're charging.
No, we
8%
don't.
Instead of 6%, do we? Do we have it or do we not have it? Are you paying it or are you not paying
If
it?
we're basing it on
To
alcohol,
start with,
that's
it's
an
a food
alcohol
tax.
tax.
Absolutely.
It's the gross retail sales.
They're charging you though.
They're charging, they're collecting it illegally, they're collecting it.
They're not collecting it illegally,
If
Shannon.
we don't have an alcohol tax and they're collecting tax on alcohol, it's illegal.
It's a drink. It's part of the bill. It's gross of the bill.
So let's back up from this. So you said if they stop and they buy a stuffed animal on the way out. Can you read that again?
Well, I just made that up as an
I know, but
example.
say they stop and they buy a t-shirt, you know, a restaurant's successful and
I don't-
patrons want to buy a t-shirt. In your opinion, should that t-shirt have a 6% or an 8%?
In my opinion, that t-shirt probably shouldn't be paying a 8%.
But under the statute, or under the ordinance, read that again. Under the ordinance, it says, all.
And this is online. If anybody wants to go and look online, we're not, this is, you know, it's out there for everybody to read.
The park's not online. Can we get that online, Phil? Please?
Why don't you come by and see it and I'll show you.
I've been by there a lot. I don't want to see it. I want the public wants to see it. They're intimidated by you. Not you individually, but they're intimidated by government. When can we get our budgets online? When can we stop working?
Okay, so I'll read this.
It is on the SPGE, Special Purpose Government Entity through the Kentucky
His
State.
budget, his full budget.
Everybody's all, well, I mean,
He said
I
it.
have to report mine every year. And not only do I have to report it, I have to pay $250 to report it.
So I go to the.
So I have to
Parks
pay
and
the government
Recreation-
$250
I go
to
the
put
Parks
my
and
budget.
Recreation Board right now,
Yeah.
and look at our current.
All of
active
them
budget.
do. Yeah, you have to.
Post on it or not.
Yeah, you do.
Hmm?
It is on.
It is on there. Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
And the chamber,
The
right.
point we're trying to make is like, if you go to a gas station and you get hot prepared food, do they
Restaurant
have
tax,
to-
yes.
Do they
They
have
pay
to
that.
pay the tax on soda pop? So like I do,
No.
but they don't. So it's, you get the gray area of the funny business, like candy. So Kentucky can charge 6% on candy at Walmart. Everywhere you're paying 6%.
That's sales tax. That's sales tax.
But
This is sales
this
tax.
is what we're talking about. You have who's auditing the hot food at gas stations?
And at grocery stores, Walmart.
Or the
Well-
alcohol. I promise you, I'm paying 8% alcohol sales if I'm having a drink with my meal, and it's not supposed to happen.
Well, you're still doing that, but at
Where's
Dairy
the-
Queen, when you sell somebody a hamburger and a drink, you're paying the drink price there, correct? I mean, not that 8%.
Yes.
The 6% plus the
where's line?
2%.
Where's the line?
So it's the
You have, like,
drink.
The gas station across from the school, and they have a little restaurant in there, but they have soda pop.
Well,
Where's the line?
how their accountants would, I guess how their register would be set up, Robin, would be if you go in there,
That's the point. I'm just arguing about the alcohol. It's true. You're paying 8%.
well, but it's your drink. You're paying 8% at Dairy Queen when you
Yes,
go.
but-
Well, I'm sorry, I was saying 8%, 2%. It's a 2% restaurant tax we're talking about.
But you
'Cause
said,
you're-
you said at the last meeting we shouldn't be paying on alcohol.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm hearing alcohol tax and we don't have an alcohol tax.
It is a tax on alcohol.
But-
It is not a tax on
Kind of
alcohol,
like what he said, you're not paying it at Bonded, but you're paying it at Applebee's and you're paying it at Cafe.
because Bonded's not a restaurant,
No,
or
but
they don't have prepared foods.
the law's the law.
But they don't serve prepared food, so they're not defined as a restaurant. Therefore, they don't pay the gross
Here's the-
retail sales,
The other
okay?
thing there's another.
If that helps, and I'm sorry, I was trying to look up, and if you can give me 5 minutes, I'll show you the state of Kentucky. Adam just referenced it. They're talking about alcohol taxes. We don't have alcohol taxes. Go down to any of our package stores, go into Kroger, buy you a 6-pack, you're not paying a tax on that. You're only paying that. Get out of the thought of alcohol. It's a drink with the meal that you're paying for.
The question is, Al, if someone went and sat down at Applebee's, at the bar, and they don't get food, do they pay the 2% restaurant tax?
In my opinion, they probably should be.
I'm not asking opinion, I'm asking, do they pay?
Well,
that?
I mean, come on, we're going to play, let's stump the mayor with your questions.
no,
That's what you're doing.
I'm
I'm saying, in my opinion, Applebee's is a restaurant, therefore, 2% of gross retail sales on restaurants, you should be paying.
So same thing on a t-shirt, correct? If they buy a t-shirt, gross retail sales, it says gross retail sales. Is
I
that
would
correct?
think that would be how they have their registers set up. Most registers would be set up for a food,
But it doesn't
key
say
or-
food. It
or
says
drink
gross
key.
retail sales, correct? Is that
Correct.
So gross retail sales is all encompassing. So in my
It-
register, I would just set up everything, you know, if that's the case, I would just put everything in as a t-shirt instead of a meal.
well, if they felt they wanted to put one over on their local government, I guess they could.
I mean, that's not.
We do not expect anyone to charge for that t-shirt or teddy bear or
So can we
wiper
refine-
fluid.
Can we refine, update that language so it's crystal clear?
Yes, well, and so I'm glad you said that. Within the ordinance, as we've been having these discussions, we understand that no ordinance is perfect, and there are some gray areas in here. Robin has pointed out a gray area, and I don't have that in front of me, the mobile food tax.
Court days.
But, well, court day, let me finish this point and then we'll talk about court day, because you deserve an answer on that. But it's 2%, right, of gross retail sales in restaurants. But we exempt in here temporary foods, hold on.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. I'm trying to find my line. Like I said, I know we're playing Stump the Mayor today, and I'm trying to do the best to play back. But the example would come up with the ice cream truck. So, an ice cream truck probably should be paying. However, in our mobile food license ordinance, we exempt ice cream trucks. So, we've got some conflicting information or conflicting direction that we know probably needs to be refined. And so, Robin, I think you had brought that up, and it's a very good point. As we look at it, we're like, there's a gray area. They probably should, but they're not.
Yeah, well.
So we're
ice
trying to
cream
fix
trucks,
that.
You take ice cream that's already pre-made, you have ice cream cones pre-made, you have sprinkles pre-made. All ice cream trucks are doing is putting it together.
Well, we've exempted them they're exempted. So that's something we need to have a conversation about is, should they be included back in? And then, so, I'm sorry, Robin, your second point, you said court day, like why is court day?
Small Town America First Friday, in that ordinance, and even non-for-profit food trucks should all be paying. I'm assuming they're paying 6%.
You mean,
Court day vendor trucks.
So-
trucks.
mobile food vendors
Yeah.
are supposed to pay a restaurant tax unless exempted, okay?
No, it's even.
No, unless exempted, they are. So a mobile food vendor should be paying it.
Court day, First Friday.
But court day, all right, so let me just say that with the mobile food trucks, unless exempted, right? But we found that in the mobile food truck ordinance, we had exempting ice cream only sales. So that's something we gotta get fixed, because they've got a loophole and they're not paying a restaurant tax, okay? So I just wanna make that clear, that's an example of where we found some gray area in here.
Yeah.
The court day and festivals,
No, they're in the ordinance that they should be paying.
well, there's a separate direction from the city council that allowed them to be exempt from paying that. And here's the reason. I'm all for you. If somebody comes in here at court day, they should be paying their fair share. But when there's 125, you shouldn't pass laws or ordinances that are impossible to enforce. Because we'll catch 10 of them, but we won't catch the other 100. And they won't report back. And then the legal issues that go with trying to track them down, take them to court. Yeah.
According to what I've heard is somebody passes around something that they report for their 6%. So they are reporting 6%, is that?
They are, correct,
So
yes.
what they're reporting for 6%, shouldn't they then report for 2%? You would know, very easy checks and balances. If they're reporting so much sales for court days, say
They're not reporting to us, Robin. So they're reporting to the state.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason there's been all this discussion going around with the state of centralizing collections on like occupational license, business licenses, those type things. So I don't know where that's gonna go. That's a state decision, not ours. But I hear what you're saying. So the state,
Somebody from the city.
the state is going after them individually saying, pay your 6% during festivals. They don't care if the city council has exempted them from paying a restaurant tax during court day. They still want their 6%.
Yes, and I would think we would want our two.
Well, we would. And so Robin, I get that.
Yeah.
But I want you to look at, we operate on a shoestring budget and don't have much help around here.
I know, I understand.
And trying to get like, just collecting the business licenses or the merchant licenses at court day is a nightmare, trying to get everybody to pay. Trying to get them to report what they actually sold in food sales
I
is almost
understand.
impossible. And that's why the city council exempted those festivals, because it's just, you can't manage it.
I understand all that, and
Okay.
I appreciate you having four forums about it and everything else. I have spoken my piece at three of them, I don't need to repeat it, but, you know, I think that's basically my point is, and I know you probably don't have the manpower to audit everybody, but if you start in the beginning of auditing stuff like that, we as citizens have found out that you are collecting alcohol tax, or what about food truck tax, other ways of getting revenue. Speaking of, and I'm sure I've never even spoken about this before, I don't even know what the process is, but what about, because the schools are using the tennis courts and using all this stuff, do they throw in any money? I do know you get other revenues from somebody like me, we sponsor, so you get money from customers or people who get tourism to help you, that's a revenue you do get. But what about from the schools? Because they're, the majority are probably using the tennis courts.
I got an answer for
Yeah,
that.
if you want to answer
And
that.
Rob, that's a great question, because yes, it's one of those we share things.
Yeah.
If you take a look at Botts Park, some of Botts Park is actually, if you take a look back there, it's actually Mount Sterling Elementary. So that's actually the school property, it's not all of ours.
Right.
But the walking track is built on there, we share that. They let us use that. If you take a look at Mapleton, that's actually the old pool. Some of that Mapleton playground is actually our land, so we kind of, that's a trade-off. The trade-off is we use the football field behind Mapleton. Trade-off is we let them use our tennis courts. We use their basketball facilities, their gyms during basketball season.
Okay,
So it's all it is a trade. One is we're just trading off.
okay.
It's
Yeah,
really-
thank you for
and
answering
that's-
that.
and that's-
I've
that's a-
never heard, I don't know.
Yeah, and nobody, that's one of those things where,
Yeah.
Do you currently see monthly auditing, monthly reports from the restaurant revenue?
no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that a feel or?
When we first started, I hate to keep going back, but on Recreation Commission, I was on 12 years, we saw monthly reporting of the revenue that came from restaurants. In addition to that, we had a couple of restaurants back in that time that we felt weren't properly recording. And it was dealing with a restaurant that had retail sales other than food sales. So we asked them to report that separately, and they started doing that. Now, I don't know what kind of documentation that you see today on the revenue that comes from the restaurants, but we used to see a monthly report. And it gave us a designation of what was retail sales, what was t-shirt sales versus what was food. And when we first implemented this thing, it was designed, it was basically said that it was, and I know drive-through has affected it because drive-through has expanded, but it was basically a walk-in, sit-down meals. That was what the tax, from our standpoint. Now, I know that drive-through has changed that philosophy, but that's the way it was described to me originally. But we did see reporting monthly.
No.
I don't know where.
We did not.
So we receive reports quarterly, and there's a standard form they report back on that says gross receipts, times tax, it's basically broken down that way. And I told you about or I'd mentioned earlier, didn't tell you specifically, spot checks on receipts, knowing what historically they should be paying, kind of keeps everything in check. If we see a restaurant that has a bad quarter, we don't think too much about that. Restaurants have bad quarters. And it all kinds of evens out over time, but if we see something that we know is very out of the ordinary, we'll generally we would contact the restaurant and say, can you recheck your numbers, or can you give us an explanation?
Does that reporting show food sales versus retail?
No, it does not. It's got it broken out. Or it's just the food and beverage.
Yeah, that's the same type of audit system that we originally did back in those days.
Okay.
So it is audited basically to notice whether a restaurant is short this month or whether they're contributing their fair share.
Yes, we know. We can tell basically just historically data. Like I can tell certain restaurants, we can guess within $500-600 what that quarterly remittance is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think you had said, did you say something else, Henry? I'm just trying to take notes and keep up the best I can with everybody. So, okay. If you think of it. Yes, sir, Adam.
I don't think anyone here came in with the idea of, let's figure out a way to get outlaws. I don't think anybody came here. What I think the issue is the language used in the ordinance, and it needs to be more clear as to what is designated as a tax, whether that be alcohol, retail sales, food, restaurants. It needs to be more clear and more concise, as opposed, obviously, for proper reporting. Less confusion at the register when you get your bill at Applebee's or Romero's or wherever. I think that's what they're asking is more clear, concise language in the ordinances and laws, whatever needs to be appropriate. As most people know, everything as far as law goes, it's all in language. Because if you look at any bill ever passed, you have an appendix that lists definitions of certain terms. So a term in this bill is going to mean something totally different in the next bill. So I think that's what the people are asking. It's not the fact that, it's, let's figure out how we can corner out boss so he can't answer, we can twist that up. It's not that, it's just asking for clear, concise language in the ordinance to avoid confusion and obviously help the city government with better reporting and be able to better financially support the people of the community.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. And let me just read. I agree with you. We have found through all these discussions, people bring to us, well, what about this? What about this? So we know that this is more than just a discussion of 2 to 3% or when it would go into effect. There are some gray areas. Restaurant, I just want to read this. Restaurant means it'd be any permanent, mobile, commercial establishment that engages in the preparation and serving of ready-to-eat foods in portions to the consumer, including but not limited to restaurants, coffee shops, cafeterias, short-order cafes, luncheonettes, grills, tea rooms, sandwich shops, soda fountains, roadside stands, street vendors, catering kitchens, delicatessens, and other certain places which food is prepared for sale of consumption on the premises or elsewhere. It does not include schools, food vending machines, establishments serving beverages only in a single service or original container. So although you think that language is sufficient, we've had discussions about there probably needs to be some clarification in there. So my point being, sometimes government tries the best to make sure that you have the best ordinance in place, but we have found some gaps that are within this ordinance. And then I am really trying to pull up an alcohol ordinance to answer some more questions. So yes, Elizabeth.
I was just gonna say, I think one of the gaps could also be argued, like with Bonded, when you said that it's not a restaurant. They do have nuts and pretzels and everything readily available at the bar.
And if they're selling those, that would probably be the key, if they're selling it.
So that's.
And I don't know the answer, Elizabeth. I haven't went and audited them on that,
It's
but
just you know I don't like speaking now. But I'm just
She's
saying,
getting better.
you are getting better, Elizabeth, yes.
You can't
Tracy, I'm right there with you.
restaurants, because Walmart charges this too. You can't just talk about grocery sales. That's our point, that's our point.
So I'm
Walmart
just,
charges this tax.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Robin, I'll get to you. Elizabeth, I didn't allow you to finish your thought. What is,
No, I'm.
You good?
Listen, I'm
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think it's just a whole gray area that one's labeled as a restaurant, but one's not.
I think we could agree on what is, yeah, that there can be some clarification. Robin, I'm sorry, because I'm trying to,
On that with Bonded and Applebee's, it's not just a restaurant tax, it's prepared food tax. It can't be just gross receipts, because Walmart charges this, so does Kroger. It's
They do.
Ready to prepare food.
and their
And yes,
register should be set so that if it's from the deli, that 2% is being added on, but if the can of beans from aisle 5, it should not be counting it.
that's basically, that's just for transparency. We're not trying to, not trick you, but these people are paying, and
It's a
customers
question-
are paying.
It's really a question of whether these restaurants, grocery stores and things like that, if they're actually calculating your bill
Correct.
appropriately.
Yes,
That's the question, because when, like, if you go to Kroger, you get, sushi, and you get groceries, it's like, that's what I do, like, how do I really know if I'm being charged the
It's a
appropriate
good-
tax on the appropriate item?
good question, Adam. And what I would say, watch those receipts. If you feel that something isn't correct, please bring it to the manager's attention. If you don't get a proper answer, bring it to our attention, because our city clerk will reach out and try to clarify the situation. We have had restaurants that have not charged correctly. We had a restaurant that was charging when they shouldn't, or not a restaurant, a coffee shop. All they sold was coffee, so they should not have been reporting it, but they reported it for a few months, and we had to give them a refund because they were collecting and shouldn't have, so.
But they went off the beverage, correct?
Because they were only beverage only. They didn't define as restaurant. They weren't a restaurant because they only sold
So
beverages.
is Starbucks considered a restaurant where they sell food?
They sell food,
But
correct.
if you sell just coffee and no food, then you're not a restaurant?
According to this ordinance, yes.
You're just a regular business?
Yeah.
That goes to the point I heard, it's all in the language.
You're correct. And like I said, this was written in 1990 and it worked in 1990, but we have found some gray areas that probably need to be addressed. So, yes, Sam.
Mayor Bott, I think part of where this confusion has come from, I was at that first meeting, and I can tell you who asked the question. It was Sabrina Arnold. And she said, if I go into a restaurant and have a drink and a glass of wine with my meal, should I be charged alcohol tax on the wine? And the answer was no.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
And then, she or someone said, well, what if they do charge me tax on that glass of wine? What should I do? And the answer was, you need to take that up with the manager and ask the manager why they're charging you on that alcohol tax. So, I for one, I don't know anybody else who was at that meeting, I was kind of surprised to hear that alcohol shouldn't be
Okay.
involved in that tax. So I left here obviously confused.
Okay, and so you can place that on me, and I go back to, we don't have an alcohol tax. We have a restaurant tax that's on restaurants that prepare food, and if you get a drink with it, you should be paying that tax. It's not about the alcohol, it's about the drink that's with the food. And so I must have confused her question, because let me just use Bath County. Bath County just went wet. Menifee County just went wet. They impose a ABC ordinance, and within that ordinance, they can put in a tax on alcohol. They do. I don't know what it is, but they do.
How can I say?
We don't have that.
Well,
In Montgomery County, we were wet and up till Prohibition, went dry, went back wet again, and we've been wet ever since, but we never imposed an alcohol tax. And so I must have misunderstood the question, and I apologize if I've created any confusion, but when you say alcohol tax to me, we have a separate alcohol ordinance which establishes your rules, the days you can get it, the times, what the license fees are, the training for servers, all that's included in an alcohol tax ordinance. And within that would be the ability to put an alcohol tax in place. We don't have that. So I have misunderstood, and I apologize if I have
Well,
created confusion with that. But when I hear alcohol and a tax, we don't have a tax on alcohol.
Yeah.
It's on, and what should be better said is the food and drink as a meal. It's the meal. Okay.
and I understand that, and sometimes it is just, words that are being used that create some confusion. But, and I'm still going to believe, if I'm paying 2% on food and alcohol, that's a tax on that alcohol. It's a little different than the tax you're calling an alcohol tax, but it's still tax on a drink.
It's just not a line
So-
tax.
You pay
So-
the tax on tea.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Not, well, a restaurant, yes.
It's a restaurant
So,
tax.
That's what I'm saying.
That's all I wanted.
Okay, well, Sam, and thank you, that helps me recall a conversation, so, and I apologize, when we say a drink with your meal,
Unless you're at a grocery store, you don't have to
if we say, you're getting a beer with your meal, and we're talking alcohol,
pay. Well,
I'm thinking alcohol tax, which is totally separate. This is gross receipts on a restaurant, meal, drink,
Okay.
you would pay it. Okay.
I understand today.
Okay,
what you're
well, I'm sorry if I've created confusion, that's totally on me.
So,
And I hope we've cleared that up.
how do our grocers, how are they skirting around this then? So if we're gonna hold everybody to the same standard here, if you go, to Applebee's and you purchase a meal with alcohol and you pay 8% total tax.
Or drink, can we say drink,
Food or
Shannon?
drink, prepared
Okay.
food tax, sorry. Then, if you go to Walmart, say you buy a thing of popcorn chicken for your child, that should be taxed at 8%, I think we're all in agreement. But if you buy a 6-pack of Bud Light or just an individual bottle of alcohol and you put in your basket, you go to the register, they're only gonna charge you 6% on that alcohol. So how are they getting around it? How are you able to look our restaurant owners in the eyes and say, you've gotta give us 8% or 2%, but you, Walmart, don't have to give us anything? Because it's like, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. It's just, I don't understand, I feel like that they're skirting around this, and it is an alcohol tax, it's a tax we're paying on alcohol. I just feel like maybe we should just revise the statute and put a revision in there that says this tax does not apply to alcohol. Alcohol is a separate item, it's defined separately, this is only for food and drink, but even then, though, we're not clear because food and drink is sold by our grocers and our convenience marts. If I go to Dairy Queen, I get a meal, I have to pay the tax. But if I go across the street and I buy a chunk of pizza from Hunt Brothers, say they sell Hunt Brothers pizza, which is popular, then I have to pay the tax. But if I buy an L8 with it, when I go up there, the L8's not taxed. See, I feel in my eyes that they should charge me tax on the L8. You better record this because that's the first time you ever heard me say they should charge me tax. They should charge me tax on the L8 and they should charge me tax on the chunk of pizza. I really love this.
What minute are we on? I'm gonna tab that on the city website, so. No, I hear you, Shannon, and so it's part of the discussion. We have realized this ordinance has some gray areas that we probably need to clean up. Yeah. Okay.
And when everyone's done, I've got that question to ask you.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Joey?
I'll be mine. Joey Campbell. I've lived here since 1997. Almost 30 years now. got involved with Parks and Recreation probably around 2003, 2004. I have a long history of Parks and Rec. And that being said, I've seen a lot of good decisions, a lot of bad decisions inside that entity. I think anybody is asking here is that we need a little more transparency, a little more accountability. Phil, I know you're new, and haven't had a chance to go into one of your board meetings yet. But I can say, I've been to numerous prior board meetings before Phil got here. And to say that the accountability and the transparency was lacking, it'd be gracious at that. I've looked at a lot of their budgets, I've looked at a lot of their audits, and let's just say there's a lot of places that numbers can be hidden inside of a lot of that stuff. And I think that that's what all our community is asking for, is a little more accountability, a little more transparency on how we are spending what we're taking in. If you can show the public where that money goes, there probably wouldn't be as much pushback as what you're seeing right now. If you can legitimately say,